I want to tell you something before you keep scrolling. I'm 92 years old, and I've been sitting in this chair by the window for 3 days trying to decide whether to say this out loud, whether it's too late for it to matter. But then I thought, if even one person hears this and does something different, then I owe it to them. I owe it to you. So here I am. My name is Frances. I was born in 1933 in a small town in Georgia that doesn't even exist on maps anymore. I've lived through things most people only read about in history books. I've loved people who are gone now. I've buried a husband, a sister, and a son. I've had a life so full it could fill 10 books. But I'm not here to tell you how great everything was. I'm here to tell you what I got wrong, because that's the part nobody ever talks about. That's the part that keeps me up at night, even at 92, even when there's not much night left to keep me up through. I made 5 mistakes in my life, 5 that I can point to clearly, like scars I can still trace with my finger. And I'm going to share all of them with you today because somebody should have told me these things when I was your age. Somebody should have sat me down and been honest with me, but nobody did. We didn't talk like that back then. You kept things inside, you smiled through it, you told people everything was fine, and everything was not fine. So I'm going to be the person for you that nobody was for me. The first one is the hardest to say. I spent the better part of 40 years trying to earn love instead of receive it. My mother was not a warm woman. She wasn't cruel, I want to be clear about that, but she was distant in the way that some women of her generation were distant, like warmth was a luxury they couldn't afford. And so I grew up believing that love was something you had to work for, something you had to deserve. And I carried that belief into every relationship I ever had, with my husband, Robert, with my children, with my friends, with myself. I was always performing, always trying to be good enough, helpful enough, selfless enough, so that people would love me and stay. I cooked every meal perfectly. I ironed every shirt. I never asked for help because asking for help felt like weakness, and weakness felt like a reason to be left. I gave and gave and gave until I had given so much of myself away that one morning I woke up and looked in the mirror and I didn't know who was looking back at me. I was 63 years old and I had no idea who Frances was outside of what she did for other people. Robert had been gone 11 years by then. The kids were grown, and I was standing in my kitchen making breakfast for one, and I thought, what do I actually like? What do I want? And I couldn't answer it. I genuinely could not answer it because I had spent so long being what everyone else needed that my own desires had gone quiet, like a radio that's been turned down so low for so long that you forget it's even on. And that silence in me, that emptiness where a self should have been, that was my own doing. I had hollowed myself out trying to be loved. And the tragedy is the people who loved me, and there were people who truly loved me, they didn't need me to be perfect. Robert used to say, Frances, you don't have to do all this. And I thought he was just being kind. I didn't believe him. I couldn't receive it. That's the word. I couldn't receive love. I could only chase it. And you can spend your whole life chasing something that's already sitting right in front of you, waiting for you to be still long enough to see it. Don't do what I did. Learn to receive. Learn to believe you are already enough. Not when you're thinner, not when you're more successful, not when you've helped enough people or proven enough things. Right now, as you are enough right now. The second mistake I made was that I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I had a voice. I've always had a voice. But I was taught that a good woman doesn't raise hers. A good woman doesn't make trouble. A good woman accommodates. And I accommodated my way right out of things I wanted and needed and deserved. There was a moment, I was 31, Robert and I were living in Atlanta, and an opportunity came for me to go back to school. I had always wanted to be a teacher, not just a woman who taught Sunday school or helped with homework, but a real teacher with a classroom of her own. And there was a program, a real program, and I had been quietly accepted into it without even telling Robert I had applied because some part of me knew I was going to talk myself out of it. But I got in. And the night I was going to tell Robert, his mother called and she was sick and he was worried and the moment passed. And I thought, I'll tell him tomorrow. And tomorrow came and something else happened. And I folded that acceptance letter and I put it in the back of a drawer and I told myself there would be other chances. There weren't. Or maybe there were, and I stopped looking for them. I'm not sure anymore. What I know is I never told him. I never told anyone. I just let that dream fold up and go quiet like so many other things. And for decades, I didn't even let myself grieve it because what right did I have to be sad about something I chose? But that's not how grief works. You can grieve a choice. You can mourn a road you didn't take, even if you were the one who chose not to take it. And I wish someone had told me that the discomfort of speaking up is so much smaller than the weight of staying silent for 60 years. Say the thing. Say it tonight. Whatever it is you've been holding, say it. Because I promise you the conversation you're afraid to have is never as bad as the life you'll live if you don't have it. The third mistake is one I see everywhere I look, even now. Even from this window. I let fear make most of my decisions. Not all of them, but most of the important ones. I was afraid to move to New York when I was 25, and a friend offered me a place to stay and a fresh start. 222, I was afraid it would be too hard, too lonely, too far from everything I knew, so I stayed. I was afraid to leave a job I hated for 11 years because what if the next one was worse? I was afraid to tell my son Daniel when he was struggling that I had struggled too, because I thought parents were supposed to be strong and certain, and I didn't want to burden him with my humanness. I was afraid to go to the doctor for 2 years when something felt wrong, because I was afraid of what they might find. Fear, fear, fear. It ran like a current underneath everything I did. And the worst part is that most of what I feared never even happened. The fear was always bigger than the actual thing, every single time. New York would have been hard, yes. But I was already hard. I had already survived hard things. I could have survived New York, but I let the fear of a thing stop me from living toward it. And that is one of the sharpest regrets I carry. Not the things I tried and failed, never those.